publisher of Yankee T News, coming to you once again on Monday, the 7th of April, the year of our Lord 2025, from the world-famous Parkway Diner in Stamford, Connecticut. Quite the place. Come on by, have dinner. We'll have a little dinner club thing. Come on by. Okay, geez Louise, where do I start? Okay, first of all, the quote of the day. Quote of the day, pay attention. The people fighting the tariffs are the same people running the hands-off protests. A little something to think about, isn't it? Now, there's quick things I want to share with you. Somebody made the point that if you are what would be considered a rhino, a Republican in name only, you are in fact a junior partner of the radical left. And I thought, you know what? You're right. So I decided to improve on that a little bit, courtesy of our hopefully soon-to-be outgoing chairman of the Connecticut GOP, Ben Proto, who is eminently a rhino. And just to clarify things, because we are in Connecticut, he's not a junior partner of the radical left. He's a junior partner of the Connecticut communists. All right? Just so we clarify it. All right?
Is he really?
How do we say this? He would not understand how his thinking aligns with the Connecticut communists. Doesn't compute. Okay? Therein lies the problem.
So basically, he is a communist.
Might as well call him a useful idiot. Okay?
Okay.
He can deny it, but, you know, God bless him. Thank you for doing the interview with us, Ben. But look, you know, candor is very therapeutic. So I'm suggesting you pay attention to these comments, okay? You are aware that there is a Connecticut Communist Party, right? And you're aware that the Connecticut Communist Party is one of the oldest parties in the nation in communism, right? And you're also aware of the fact that at various times we've had around about a half dozen members of the legislature who are card-carrying members of the Connecticut Communists, right? Or maybe you don't know these things. So maybe you do need to know these things, all right? So, and then there's the other hot issue here, which is you have to get into the weeds, okay? You got to get into the weeds and understand what the issues are, what the ideas are, what the beliefs are, what their goals and objectives are politically. You have to sort through all that. I know it's hard work, but you need to do it. Meantime, we had this little thing called the hands-off demonstration. Well, I have a little something to add to it, but right now, I just need to work through it. I'll put it up here if it helps. If you want to grab, I don't know how well you can see that and grab a screenshot of it. But there are more people to put on there. Is that okay, Eric? Yeah? Okay. So I'll just rattle it off. Hands off. Well, let me ask the obvious question. Says who? Well, guess what? Say the communists, say the radical Islamists, say the pro-Hamas supporters, say the thieving bureaucrats, say the useful idiots. No, wait, have we reached the bottom of the barrel yet? Nope, there's more. Say the drag queens, say the trannies, say the porno librarians, say the blood-sucking politicians, say the Satanists, say the hate-filled feminists, say the death-loving abortionists, say the Constitution-hating judges, and above all, our favorite, the knee-jerk liberals. Okay, so now we've got that part done. Now we can move on to the real stuff. Okay, it has been quite the last few days, right? Since President Trump announced the tariffs, that has really, shall we say, shaken the world. And to a number of people, I sent out the essay that I put together on this, Rocking the Boat Much. So I just want to pick a few important points here. The part that I think people are beginning to understand is that these tariffs are really about reciprocity. Now, that said, I'm going to throw in something that confuses me, and maybe somebody can clarify it for me. President Trump has made much of the point that these tariffs are going to encourage more investment in the United States and bring more manufacturing to the United States. Okay, and we're seeing some early evidence that that might be true. But my question is this: if we go to zero tariffs, okay, and so we are no longer issuing punitive tariffs to other countries, what happens to the incentives to bring manufacturing to America? I don't have a good answer. I'm just asking the question, and we'll hopefully get to the bottom of it. Nonetheless, reciprocity is an important concept here. And as you dig into this, the other thing that people like to talk about a lot is the fact that when you add up all the dollars and cents over the last 70, 80 years, a lot of countries have built their economies on America's capacity to sustain debt. So in other words, our debt has fed the growth of other economies. So we can only do that for so long. And if you've been following our debt situation, you know we're at $36, $38 trillion in debt now, an unconscionable number. Nobody would ever expected anything like that. And I can tell you, certainly as I follow the debate, you can see some people who used to be comfortable with this, they're starting to get uncomfortable. They appreciate that at $36 trillion, America is reaching a limit in terms of its capacity for debt. All right, so it's curious that at that moment, now you have President Trump turning around and saying the whole economic order that has relied so heavily on the United States cannot be allowed to function anymore. And so that set the stage for his favorite topic that he's talked about for the last 30 years, which is tariffs. Okay, so is this going to work out as expected? That's the big question. We're all a little nervous because there is a chance that this whole thing could blow up and fail. Okay, that said, we also know that a number of countries have very quickly got on the phone and asked for an audience with the president so they can hopefully renegotiate these tariffs. Now, one other point that should be emphasized is that we have long, and I've been guilty of this, we've long been taught that one of the major causes of depression in the United States was what was called the Smoot-Hawley Act. So this was a trade protectionist act, and the belief was that it contributed to triggering the depression. Credit squeezes were more of a problem, but that's another subject for another day. Okay. Well, it turns out that the Smoot-Hawley Act was passed after the crash and had little or no effect economically.
More reactionary.
Yes, well, more of an overreaction perhaps.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so that point had to be made. All right, all of that said, I just want to say personally, I am excited at the prospect of more manufacturing coming back to America. That would be fantastic. But you know, the clarion call to do this has been going on for what now? At least the last several years. And the basis for doing it has been very clear. People have finally spoken up and admitted that the communist Chinese have been stealing their technology and doing all kinds of horrible things to the foreign companies. Well, what's taking you so long? Get out. You know, and so the ones that are dragging their feet are like Apple and Nike. Yeah, it may be that they see, to them, they think they have nowhere else to go. All right. So just to rattle them off. So in the essay, I mentioned that, you know, one of the first to ask for dispensation from these tariffs was Vietnam. Another one was Singapore. Then we heard about what we'll call the 50 countries that want to have an audience with President Trump. And purportedly that number has grown. But the one that got everybody's attention, the one that made the markets begin to soften a little bit today, because Sunday night, okay, the Dow was down, the Dow futures were down 1,500 points, okay? So it was going to kind of be like a replay of, I think it was Friday. But then from, let's say, late Sunday night to the market opening, it went from 1,500 to 1,200 to 1,000 to 800, and by the end of the trading day, we were only down a couple hundred points. Plus, NASDAQ was positive today. Okay, so you have to wonder what is going on, but I would say that one of the points to keep in mind is that when Japan got on the phone and said, we'd like to talk with the president, we're sending a delegation right now, that's where the market started to calm down, because as we know, Japan is a big trading partner. Meantime, our good friends in Europe, oh my God, annoying people they are. Von Leyden, is that the name of the head of the EU? Remember von Leyden, I think is her
Look
name?
it up.
Yeah, sorry. So her comments, I have to say, in response to the tariff announcements was disingenuous at best.
Ursula
Yeah.
von der Leyen.
Von-
Von der Leyen.
Von der Leyen. Okay, sorry. We'll have to fix that. So now you want to talk about zero tariffs? Where were you, lady? Where were you 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, if you're so interested in zero tariffs? So dishonest. And in the meantime, so here's the other thing. All right. You know, there is still this mysterious element. Dare I use the, what's the word I'm looking for, the cliche term? Inscrutable. Okay, the inscrutable Asians, the inscrutable Chinese. Right, right. So here we have a gentleman named Kyle Bass, who I mentioned, who's a very smart financier who's really had his eye on what's happening in China. And, you know, he and others will tell you that that communist China has been on the edge economically for quite some time now. So where other people like Gordon Chang have been saying, you know, any day now, no. China has still not collapsed. And my reaction as I've followed it is that even though these are communists, they're pretty slick when it comes to finance, gotta say. And they've managed to, you know, reset themselves financially on a periodic basis. Maybe there's a limit to it and they haven't hit it yet. The other part that I find kind of interesting is that America, as well as other parts of the world, are still on what you would call a Keynesian economic foundation, all right, which is basically to have debt drive growth. And guess who else relies on debt to drive growth? Yeah, the communist Chinese. Well, who knew that? But yeah, they do. Okay, so the point here is we're just getting started. We have no idea how this is going to turn out. We're just going to have to watch it. And we'll be, you know, doing pieces on it and let you know. Okay, the next hot item. So there are several related things. The first alert, the first warning that I saw, okay, first, before I get started on this, the other point I want to make is that, as I put in the, if you go to the links, you'll see the title is the Tariff Toolbox, or Tariffs are a Toolbox. So it's not just about rates that you would charge on products coming into the country. As President Trump is showing, it's a policy tool that gets other countries to change their economic behavior with respect to us. Okay, well, who would have thunk this? So let me just lay it out. Okay, so here comes the first blow. The tariffs are going to be inflationary. It's going to reduce demand for some goods. It's going to drive some of our companies into bankruptcy. Oh my God, oh my God. Maybe. But here's the interesting part. Now that they have scared so many people into getting out of the market, okay, this potentially puts a number of companies in danger of bankruptcy. Now, before we get to the bankruptcy part, the lowering of these stock prices triggers something else. It's the ugliest word in stock market investing, margin. Margin, yes. This could trigger margin calls. Just like the stock market crash in 1929, margin calls played a big role in that. Margin calls could play a big role in this. Now, I think we're a little more sophisticated now in how we handle margin calls, but this is a factor. So here's what happens. If you have the margin calls, that triggers even more selling with the possibility of driving companies eventually into bankruptcy. And who is the most unwelcome beneficiary of these changes? This is the one that surprised me, ladies and gentlemen, junk bonds. So you have to realize that companies that are financially weak, but they're on the stock market, you know, they resort to junk bonds as a way to finance what they're doing. They have to be willing to pay these outrageous interest rates. You know, they can much more than 10%. And if the rest of the market is falling down around them, and I'll just add that if the volatility index, VIX, spikes up as well, this creates what we'll call a very financially unstable environment. So you've got prices going down, people selling, puts companies in trouble. You have margin selling that endangers more bankruptcy, and then you have the junk bonds rates going up, harder to finance. Everything just seems to be heading in the wrong direction as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so that's a part to keep in mind. Now, it's amazing how this gets so complicated. This is fantastic. All right, so there's this thing in Europe, you might hear about it every so often, called VAT, value-added taxes. Well, Mr. Navarro, Peter Navarro, I guess he was the trade representative, he's in another capacity now in the administration, pointed out that value-added taxes are another type of tariff, okay? And then he made the point, and this is a point we're going to have to pay attention to, all right? Because it is coming our way. The fights that you have in trade all the time involve, that's right, currency manipulation. This is one of the accusations hurled at communist China. Others do it too. Dumping, so that's when individual companies just decide they're going to underprice stuff and pour it into another market. We've had steel dumping and things like that, going on in the American market for the longest time. And we have Department of Commerce programs where if they receive a complaint, they're supposed to investigate it, do something about it, et cetera. Export subsidies, fake standards, even better. So it's not just about the tariffs themselves, okay, but the tariff regime starts to bring more attention to these other problems that Mr. Navarro has brought up. And the other point I want to make is all this stuff now caused the stock market in China to plummet over 12%. So we can see that facilitating more of a trade war. Now, let's see here. I think this is the last point I want to make on this. Yeah, this is the last point. Excellent article in the American Thinker, right here. The link is up. Trump's tariff play, the art of the economic reset, all right? And so again, this also gets into the points I was just making with respect to currency manipulation and dumping and intellectual property theft and all the other good things that go on with a country like communist China, which is what now? Let me think. Oh, yeah, a mercantilist predator. Yeah, mercantilist predator. Got it. So there's a lot more to understand than what I have time to talk about here. Maybe I'll have an opportunity to talk about this more next week. But you definitely get your homework. Go check that out. Meantime, the title that I put up for these lovely gentlemen I'm about to talk about are, where did you guys go? Come on. The Senate's Chinese agents fighting back against Trump. All right, another way to put this is, and this is conjecture, Steve Bannon mentioned it in the War Room today, and I couldn't agree with him more. A lot of these Republicans who really hate Trump, the reason they hate Trump is because, that's right, their investments in China haven't exactly worked out. Now have they? So they're feeling a little angry, feeling a little vindictive. I get it. So here we go again. It would have been the constituents that we are estimating about 10 Republican senators who are going to get together and do their best to pass a bill to take away Trump's tariff powers. The only problem is, doesn't the president have to sign that? So I don't think that's happening. I mean, this is just a desperate act. So Don Bacon, who's a Republican from Nebraska, a name that keeps coming up, I think, is Steve Daines. Another one is, I forget. All right, so there's about 10 of them. It's called Stay Tuned on this, but this is absolutely shameful, all right? So all they do is they listen to the phone calls of, let's face it, billionaires, the oligarchs that Bernie and AOC are supposedly fighting, getting on the phone and telling those senators, you must stop Trump. Okay, I think, the alliances here need to be understood a little bit more deeply. I'm just saying. All right, this is shameful, absolutely shameful. How dare they do something like this? Do you understand the situation this country is in, and then you go ahead and pull a stunt like this? No. You know, you guys are going to get primaried. I sure hope you get primaried. Just saying. Meantime, these are related here. So you got this. Where was the other part here? Ding, dang, dag, nabbit. Okay, it was Elon Musk and a guy named Mr. Gracias, who were at a conference in Wisconsin, I want to say a few days ago. And what they did was phenomenal. Phenomenal, okay? They put up the data on what we call non-citizens, the issuance of non-citizen Social Security numbers. What? Since when do non-citizens get Social Security numbers? There might be a basis for it, but they showed clearly that what was done in issuing these numbers was absolutely fraudulent, okay? And in issuing these Social Security numbers, it has set the stage for yet other ways to defraud the federal government and the American taxpayer. So I think something has to be done about it. And they lay out the data. It's all there. So I got the link up, so you got to have a look at that. What's the other thing here? Oh, God. All right. How am I doing on time?
We're just about ready to shut it down. But,
Yeah.
You didn't mention Justice Roberts capitulating to.
Oh. I thought I put up something that he must resign. Didn't I?
Well, right, but he did do something good, stopping the judge's injunction to have the
Okay.
MS-13.
Right, so, all right, so that said, we need to rub it in, okay? We're gonna rub it in. Chief Justice Roberts, why were you staying for a whole week in the Czech Republic several years ago with a gentleman named Norm Eisen, who is one of the engineers of election fraud? Why were you with him? Why is he your good buddy? Something's wrong with this picture. And I want to add to that, the other information that came out, that he's also a member of that, what was it, Capitol Hill Judges Club, and which is, the president of which is Judge Boasberg, and the vice president of the club is Ketanji Brown. Are you serious? And you're good buddies with these people? Now look, I can understand. For example, back in the day, the two most unlikely friends, Justice Scalia and, I'm sorry, what was her name? Can you remember her name, Eric? The liberal justice. I apologize. Kagan? No, not Kagan, no.
Sotomayor?
Nope, no. She preceded all of them. She was this, you know.
O'Connor?
Nope. After,
Bader Ginsburg?
Yes, Bader Ginsburg, thank you. So Bader Ginsburg, very liberal, Justice Scalia, very conservative, were the best of friends. They traveled all around the world together. Amazing, okay? So yes, those things happen. So does that excuse Justice Roberts and Norm Eisen? In my judgment, no. That's another kettle of fish. All right, so, DHS officials are asking the IRS to hand over 7 million names of illegal aliens who have obtained information for taxes, okay? We are eagerly looking forward to that. Meantime, oh my goodness, Natalie Winters is doing her job again. Okay, the National Press Club. All right, we have talked about the captured elites, okay, who work for the Communist Chinese, but we haven't talked about whole institutions who function as captured elites, okay? So now we get to talk about the National Press Club. She called them out. They didn't appreciate it. They kicked her out, okay? They didn't deny it, okay? So the problem is, so they partner with the Confucius Institute U.S. Center. Dude, we know that this is a group that serves as a propaganda arm for the Chinese Communist Party, and you're working with them, okay? I think we've got this one figured out. And speaking of all of that, all right, this goes, I bring that up, and I want to mention a story that goes back, I believe, to August or September, where an assistant to Governor Hochul named Linda Sun and her husband were caught spying for China, okay? And they've been doing it for a long time. They love China a long time and had received millions of dollars for their efforts. Okay, all of this said, my question is Ms. Sun, having done this for so long, surely recruited a number of other people to help her out. So we would like to know what that network of spies is in the New York State government, just saying, okay? Now, I guess what I'm going to close with, let me just make sure I'm not missing, all right, the People's Cabinet. This is ridiculous. Okay, so the Democrats want to start their own shadow government. They're not the first to think of this idea. We'll stay tuned. Just saying, as one person put it, they're not experts. It's a group of leftist bureaucrats, failed politicians, and radical activists. Great. All right, I got to finish this quickly. All right, this is sick, okay? I just want to be clear. How can you justify in any way, shape, or form a group of people who are saying assassination is a good idea? I love it. Okay, but this is what the survey shows. All right, see on the group, I think it's affiliated with Princeton University, no, Rutgers, I'm sorry. So it's the Network of Contagion Research Institute in partnership with Rutgers University of Social Perception Lab. Done other good work too. We've talked about them. Yeah, to have 55% of liberals say assassination, that's a great idea. That's really not good. Not good for our country, just saying. Meantime, let's see here. All right, so I did that part. All right, so the one I really want to focus on and close on because it's just too good. It could have been an April 1st stunt because he did announce on April 1st, but there is this gentleman in Stamford, Connecticut, who has worked for David Martin, a previous mayor, has also been working for Carolyn Simmons, the current mayor, and so he's been a Democrat. And as the story goes, he switched party affiliations to Republican, and he's decided that he's going to run for mayor himself. So as part of this possible April 1st hoax, he has also emphasized that he's a time traveler. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Arthur Augustine, who has declared for mayor, has emphasized the fact that he is a time traveler. Okay, well, I got a bunch of questions for him. When did you travel? Where did you go to? What did you learn? And so, are you a Republican? Were you a Democrat before or after you did the time travel? That's a really important question. Okay, so I've really covered a lot of ground here. The links are up. Go check them out. And we'll see you next week.